What do you say, everybody? And welcome to Bama Insider and the Bama Insider YouTube channel. It is time for Monday Night Quarterback. I want to thank all of you guys that are watching on our YouTube channel and remind you to give us a thumbs up and subscribe. And for those of you that are listening to the podcast right now, and if you didn't know it, there is a podcast of this show. It's available YouTube for watching, right? And then you got Apple and Spotify for listening. You can download the podcast after the show each night. When we do different material, we put it on there, and we do hope that you'll subscribe and like, and also maybe give us a 5-star rating. All right, guys, let's talk about a lot of different things. We got quite a list of activity. Alabama, of course, is searching for an offensive coordinator. We got a Heisman Trophy to be awarded tomorrow. Bama versus Ohio State for the national championship. Jaylen Waddle possibly returning. He's back at practice. It's going to be a fun show tonight. So let me introduce to you this cast of characters that'll get us through Monday Night Quarterback. First off, he is the beat writer for the BamaInsider.com channel. We talk to him each week. He's also the man behind Monday Morning Quarterback, which you can read, and he's a guest host on Monday Night Quarterback, a contributor, if you will, Mr. Tony Tsoukalis.
What's up, man?
Hey,
that was quite the introductory.
Yeah, we need some applause, right?
Yeah,
you're right. The applause button. All right, the second guy that I want to tell you about is making his way through the capstone as we speak. He's a student on his way to honors, and who knows, maybe he'll be class president someday. If there was a class president on the Bama Insider site, he would certainly get that. Our intern of the year and a legacy of broadcasting excellence, Trey Yanity.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's insane.
This is nice.
Fancy.
Amazing. And people are going nuts. And then there's the man behind all of the stuff that we do. Of course, he's the managing editor of Bama Insider and the Bama Insider brand from the state of New Mexico, where I didn't know this, but they have a very good idea of great beer. He's been the guy that has helped me on my show, which comes on Friday night, and has done a fantastic job on that as well. Of course, the Bama Insider Tailgate Show. Ladies and gentlemen, the hottest name in Alabama broadcasting, Kyle Henderson.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. We got a lot to cover, as Mick said. So definitely hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe. You guys helped us have a gigantic 2020. So we're looking forward to a monster 2021 as Mick opened with the show. We got a ton to talk about. I mean, it doesn't stop at Alabama, right? Steve Sarkisian to Texas. I mean, we're going to dive into that. Who are going to be the replacements? We're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy, which will be on Tuesday night. We'll be here to provide coverage for that. Who's Alabama going to replace Steve Sarkisian with? And then, of course, as Mick said, is Jaylen Waddle going to come back for the title game? So much to talk about. We're going to have Tony Tsoukalis down in Miami. So, a lot to go through. And thank you very much for joining us tonight on Monday Night Quarterback.
All right, guys. Well, let's talk about the search for a new offensive coordinator. I was on last night for 2 hours and kind of got into the part of this that I'm not happy about, and that's personal, but the timing of this I didn't think was great. But Alabama's going to have to deal with it. Nick Saban addressed that today, and all of a sudden now you're starting to hear some names, possible candidates to be the next offensive coordinator. I'm going to start with you, though, Tony. You were in the press conference today when the question was asked. Your feeling on Alabama, the program, Nick Saban, and having Steve Sarkisian with this Texas job in his back pocket, still coaching Alabama's offense?
I'm confident that Steve Sarkisian's going to be able to handle this. He seems dialed in. He seems pretty sharp. He also seems like a guy that really feels like he owes something to Nick Saban, and I don't think he would take this and just forget about Nick Saban. I think you heard from his introductory press conference at Texas that he's going to be with the team. He's going to focus on everything in Austin after the game. It's only a week. I mean, he can give Alabama a week. It's not like this happened at the beginning of December like it has in the past. I think, it's a lot harder when you have a whole month and you're going to lose that whole month of recruiting at your new program. there's only so much you can do in a week. And I don't necessarily think that Steve Sarkisian is going to be missing that much. And I think that's going to allow him to keep his focus. And just with the second chance that, Nick Saban kind of provided to him, I think that he understands, kind of what he owes back to Nick Saban and what he owes to these players too. Because look, that's what Nick Saban brought up during the press conference. Sarkisian doesn't get this job without Devontae Smith, without Mac Jones, without the offensive line. And he owes it to those players to help them get their goal of a national championship, because they helped him get his goal of returning back to a head coach. So I actually think he's going to be able to handle it. Sure, the timing's not great, but the timing's never great with these kind of things. And so it really comes down to how they handle it. And that's kind of what Nick Saban said. And I'm kind of confident that Steve Sarkisian is going to be able to do it.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope so. What about you, Kyle? I mean, I think this is such a hot button topic. I mean, kind of just bouncing off of our conversation last night. Do you think that he's going to be able to handle being Texas's head coach, going out and putting a staff together, which we're already hearing rumors of guys that he's going to take from Alabama and other schools? I felt like that this is almost like the Sarkisian victory tour, where he gets to, kind of take that victory lap and go around and wave at everybody instead of getting ready for football. But I might be wrong. What do you think?
I think, look, just like Devontae Smith said today during his press conference, this is part of the business. Now, when you're a younger guy at Alabama, it probably affects you more, because Steve Sarkisian, I think it's going to be tough for anybody to upgrade from him. With that being said, I think he's going to be able to handle his business this week. These guys are professionals. They know what to do. Nick Saban, this isn't his first time this has happened. Now, you can kind of point to the last time that Alabama played in a title game against Clemson, and that was with Mike Locksley, and things fell off the rails, right? But I think Clemson was the better team in that capacity. Look, Ohio State, I said it today. They look angry, right? They look like Clubber Lang and Rocky III against Clemson. So they're a very dangerous opponent. Absolutely, Justin Fields played out of his mind. I think the one thing that is a distraction, and I don't understand kind of the timing of it, like what's the difference between January 2nd and January 12th, right? The championship game is over. Why couldn't Texas have announced it then? So I don't really understand in that capacity, but I think these guys will be dialed in. I think at this time of year, everything is so rhythmic. I mean, even from our standpoint, everybody knows what they need to do. You're in such a rhythm. You're in such a flow. So I think they'll be able to handle it. Look, is he going to take coaches from Alabama? I have no idea. Probably. That's kind of how this works. Those will be the things that sting in 2021. But I think with Sarkisian coming into this game against Ohio State, I think these guys will be laser focused and they'll have their eyes on the prize.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I mean, that's got to be kind of the focus for Alabama is getting ready for Ohio State. And Trey, you saw the football game between Clemson and Ohio State. Alabama's got their hands full right now, and we're going to get into that later on in the show. But do you think that having Sark leave for Texas, or at least have that job, is going to affect Alabama and their preparation to take on this Ohio State team?
I mean, anytime that your offensive coordinator has one foot out the door, that's going to affect you a little bit, but Alabama's used to this. This is a regular occurrence, almost a yearly occurrence for the Crimson Tide. And like Kyle said, you have a bad taste in your mouth looking back to that last national title Alabama competed in. Mike Locksley was in the same situation and it didn't work out. But that's not to say that that's going to be the case every single time. This is only a week. And if nothing else, I think Steve Sarkisian realizes this is the last game I might have for a little while where I have the best wide receiver in the country, the best running back in the country, and one of the best quarterbacks in the country on my team. And he's going to take advantage of that. He has been able to mix and match this offense and call plays to nearly perfection all season long. And I don't think that's going to change. This is the highest stakes game he's gotten to coach in a really long time. I think the Texas head coaching job is probably at the forefront on his mind right now. But he realizes what this means to Alabama, to the guy that hired him back on, and like Tony said, to the players that have gotten him this Texas head coaching job. So I think so a little bit just naturally, because this is a big move for him, and this team is going to have to adjust here on the fly a little bit. But I don't think it's going to affect it to the point that it did back in 2018 against Clemson, and really even, to the effect that some media members are making it out to be. But there's definitely going to be a little bit there naturally.
I mean, it felt like, though, that the game plan against Notre Dame looked flat after Alabama got the big lead, and that kind of reminded a lot of us of when Alabama played Washington and then played Clemson the first time with Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin ended up getting pushed out, and I think that's what the worry is. But now, instead of getting ready for Ohio State and thinking about the Buckeyes, Alabama gets to figure out who their next offensive coordinator is. And Kyle, I mean, you've been on this with a list of candidates now with, Adam Gase, the Jets head coach, being fired. He's available. Bill O'Brien, who had a ton of success at Penn State in a very tough situation, and really up until recently was an excellent football coach at in Texas for the Texans, Houston. They made some bad trades, and he's not so popular there anymore. But at the same time, I mean, he's a great offensive mind. These two guys have been added to a list that has a lot of young coordinators from other teams on there. One guy that's on Alabama's staff and a couple of head coaches.
Yeah, I think when I look at these two candidates that we're looking right now, and by the way, we have a full hot board back at BamaInsider.com. Actually, in our hot board report, Tony put this together, and he's like, look, the last 2 out of 3 offensive coordinators that Alabama has picked from Nick Saban have both been from the NFL, right? Brian Daboll, who was from the New England Patriots, to Alabama, and then Steve Sarkisian. Well, he had a brief stint at Alabama, and then he went to the Atlanta Falcons, and then came back to Atlanta, and then came back to Alabama. So you look to, maybe that philosophy that's going to play into that. Nick Saban is always trying to do something that's innovative. He's always ahead of the curve, right? You replace Scott Cochran with 2 guys, all right? Nobody saw that coming in their mind, right? Everybody was kind of looking to like a strength coach, and then Saban goes out and gets Matt Ray and Dr. David Ballou. Nobody saw that. So I think in this particular situation, look, Saban's going to, number one, make the right choice for this program. Sources from inside the program tell me that Bill O'Brien, they really like this guy, everything that he brings, kind of that, since he's been with Bill Belichick, who's very close to Nick Saban, you have kind of that connection. Now, when you look at Adam Gase on the right, you kind of look to where he's been. Look, I get it. He wasn't the most successful coach in the NFL, but you look to all the places that he's been as an offensive coordinator. Saban clearly wants a guy that has called plays before. Why would he not? These guys going to the NFL, these are some of the latest names. And I know people want Joe Brady and some other names that we've kind of kicked around. I don't think those names are realistic. These are 2 names that seem to have surfaced as of late. I don't think, I mean, Saban's going to make the right call. If these guys were visiting with Nick Saban, that clearly says something.
Have you guys heard of any other candidates besides these 2, Tony? You being around the program, I'll throw that out there to Trey as well.
I mean, not in terms of just like any inside sources. There's some guys you look at that might make a little bit of sense just based on their location or their success. Jeff Lebby from Ole Miss is somebody that you look at and you're saying, oh, that's an up-and-coming guy. That's kind of would maybe be a sexy hire, but you really don't know. There's guys that have worked in the past. I don't think they're going to give it to like per se like a Major Applewhite or any of those guys like a Chip Long. Look, we've had these hot boards in the past, and those guys have been on it. If Nick Saban wanted those guys, probably would have brought in those guys, earlier. So I think it's going to be somebody. I kind of like the Bill O'Brien potential of that hire. I think he's a guy that's done it both in the pros and as a head coach. I think if you're looking from a recruiting standpoint, you can look at him and kind of say like, well, he's been there. He has NFL connections, and those kids are going to like that. And he's also known how to recruit as being a college coach. So I like that move, but nothing outside of those 2 guys that, has really like kind of stood out from what we've heard.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Ten, and I think that's kind of by design. I think they want this to be a search that people are kind of on board with. That's how it was the last time around, and I think people want the buzz about Bill O'Brien and potentially Adam Gase, to be there. And I think it's a great hire either way. I think Bill O'Brien is the hire you want to make, just because of the steadiness he's had at the NFL, and like you said, Mick, if they don't make a certain trade this summer, they could be back in the playoffs. He has a playoff win in the last calendar year. So, I think Bill O'Brien would be a great hire. I think Adam Gase would be an awesome hire as well. He might have another season in the NFL if he hadn't won too much, as weird as that sounds this season. But both of these guys, I think, are the names that we're hearing for a reason, because Nick Saban and Alabama typically hire guys that are a lot like this, and these 2 make the most sense. And, I think they're both really great hires if Alabama were to go in either direction.
Yeah, they both make sense kind of along Nick Saban's pattern. He likes to have that experience at the coordinator spots. And he's at the part in his career where, no one's going to come in and be more high profile than him, and it's been great watching the way that he's let Steve Sarkisian kind of handle the offense and do his thing, and really hasn't had to spend a lot of time getting involved in it. And Alabama, up until the Notre Dame game, looked really good. Heisman Trophy ceremony tomorrow night, guys. For all of you that are watching, make sure you swing back over. Kyle and I will be on to talk about the Heisman Trophy, and we'll be on live when the announcement's made. We've got 2 Alabama players of the 4 who are finalists for this award. Devontae Smith right now is Vegas's odds-on favorite to win. Mac Jones is like second, right? And then you got Kyle Trask and Trevor Lawrence. Trask, the Florida quarterback, and Lawrence from Clemson of the 4. But it seems like it's going to be in Alabama. It could be 1 and 2 for Alabama when this thing's all said and done. Kyle, you look at this. It feels like Alabama's going to be in good shape tomorrow night. It'll be very memorable.
Yeah, definitely. And be sure and check out our show tomorrow night. We'll be covering the Heisman Trophy ceremony. And of course, after we'll have some interviews with these guys via Zoom. So stick around on BamaInsider.com. Good reason to hit the subscription button right here. My goodness. Kind of take your pick right here, right? You can kind of start on the left with Mac Jones and everything that he's done at Alabama. It's really incredible just to look at Mac Jones a couple seasons ago. I think that when you look back, who would have thought that Mac Jones would be here today? I think a lot goes to his hard work, his dedication. A lot goes to Steve Sarkisian, right? And the offense that Alabama has built. The one stat that really stands out to me with Mac Jones is not the 4,000 yards, not the 36 touchdowns, but the 77% completion percentage. That's ridiculous in today's age. Credit to him. That's just a wonderful job. Doesn't make a lot of bad mistakes. Now, he's got to continue that against Ohio State to finish out with a polished record. But, just this season alone, it's been great. Look at the right, Devontae Smith. The stats are silly, right? This is like PlayStation 4 type numbers. 105 receptions, 1,600 yards, 22 total touchdowns. Clearly, the odds-on favorite to win it. I love the way that, Smitty continues just to be a team guy. He doesn't even like to answer any type of individual questions. The guy's a big-time player. Has that Mamba mentality that he just wants the football, completely dominates. My pick is for Devontae Smith if I had one, and curious to see what our other guys had to say about this.
Yeah, Trey, if you had a vote, who are you giving it to?
It's Devontae Smith. There's no way you can look at the candidates this year and not say it's Devontae Smith. There's so many reasons too. The footwork, the agility, the stuff he's done, with deep ball routes this year, the way that he's created space, just some of the stuff he does in open field. Like we saw that first touchdown on Saturday against Notre Dame. That's a one-on-one, play there that the defender makes 9 times out of 10, but he wasn't even touched. And just the numbers too, like Kyle saying, 105 receptions going for 1,641 and 22 touchdowns. That is unbelievable. If a receiver doesn't win the award this year, I don't think you should give it to anybody other than a quarterback moving forward, because you've made it clear that this is truly a quarterback's award. Devontae Smith is more than deserving. And like I told Tony this morning as we kind of got together, our thoughts for the Heisman, it's because of his footwork first and foremost for me. But, so many tools and the touchdowns and everything else, I think, is going to get him an award this year.
Tony, do you think that Mac could possibly win this award? Or, it feels like Devontae has it in the bag. Just kind of looking at Twitter and what everyone's saying and the odds right now, he's, minus 5,000 to win this award.
Yeah, when you look at Mac Jones, he's on pace to beat Joe Burrow's passer efficiency record from last year, NCAA single season record. He's also on pace to beat Colt McCoy's completion percentage single season NCAA record. And he's the first Alabama quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards, and he did it in 12 games. It speaks volumes to the season that Devontae Smith has had that he's the favorite here, because when you look at Mac Jones, he's a totally worthy candidate. In most years, Mac Jones is the guy. In fact, if Jaylen Waddle doesn't get hurt, I think Mac Jones probably has around the same numbers, but he splits it up between his receivers a little bit more. And I think we're talking about Mac Jones being a slam dunk for the Heisman. So it's just kind of how the ball bounced this year for him. But he won the Johnny Unitas Award earlier today. And he's just the guy that's had an amazing season. You can't forget how great of a season he's had just because Devontae Smith has probably had the best season we've ever seen from a receiver. It's a really strong class. I mean, and you talk about these two Alabama guys, and I think it should go to one of them. My vote would be for Smith. But also, when you look at Kyle Trask being third, he's a totally worthy candidate, you know, and especially if his team was to kind of back him up a little bit more. But he's, you know, the numbers he's put out in, you know, well, before that bowl game, they were insane as well. So, and then Trevor Lawrence is also worthy. So it's been a really, really great year for the Heisman, and every one of these guys is worthy. But like I said, I think my vote would go to Devontae Smith.
Love that chat that just popped up. Don't forget you got the corn dogs in. Yeah, I mean, look, I told you guys, and you know, I know you got a cool story coming out. I don't want to ruin it, but it's a hard pick between Mac Jones and Devontae Smith. They're going to have to work together though in their next game. And we're going to get into Alabama versus Ohio State. But for all of you guys that are watching right now, this channel, this Bama Insider YouTube channel has been on fire, and it's because of you. And we appreciate you guys so much. Subscribe. It's easy. It's free. Give us a thumbs up and know that we really appreciate you being here, whether you're an Alabama fan or just a college football fan looking for something to do. Monday Night Quarterback, something that we do every Monday at 6 o'clock. To recap the weekend. And I mean, there hasn't been more activity going into a game than this week since we've been doing this show. And I think that a lot, right? But we're the third topic is the national championship game. Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and Alabama against Justin Fields and Ohio State. Alabama, the line opened at 7. The current line is at 8. Opening thoughts on this game. I'm going to go first. Okay. First thing I'm going to tell you is the fact that this line's moving in Alabama's favorite is, to me, an indicator that Justin Fields is hurt. He got smacked in that game. Maybe he's got some broken ribs. I don't know, because they're not going to tell us. And in college football, they don't have to. But that's the only reason I can think that the line would be swinging towards Alabama when you're looking at how good Ohio State is. And I know we always have Ohio State people in the chat watching our show. Hey, you guys showed up against Clemson. I mean, like, really made a believer out of me. I always knew they had a good football team, guys, but they didn't play a schedule. It wasn't their fault. It was their conference commissioner's fault, the presidents of these schools that canceled the season, and then they came back and they didn't have a good plan for it. And then all these teams are canceling games, maybe running. We don't know, but they had the last 2 games canceled. And, you know, and they had to change the rules to even let them into the championship game. But that's one thing. Maybe the other part of it is that Jaylen Waddle's coming back. I don't know, but Alabama has Vegas thinking that they're the big-time favorite. I'll start with you, Kyle. Your thoughts on this championship game?
Well, when I look to Alabama and Ohio State, love the matchup. Look, I have to give credit to Ohio State. I didn't feel that they were going to be in the championship game. I was really impressed with what Justin Fields did. I mean, if you rewind to the Bama Insider tailgate, I figured he would be the difference maker in a negative way. Guy comes out, throws 6 touchdowns, really incredible performance. I'm curious to see what his health status is. I would assume he's going to be okay, but I think I'm with you. You know, I kind of see that line sliding towards Alabama. Excuse me, kind of even despite Steve Sarkisian distraction. I think Alabama is really laser focused. And I think this game comes down to simply a fireworks show of offense. And I think Alabama, you kind of look to what they've been able to do over the course of the year. Mac Jones has been fantastic, and Devontae Smith, as we just talked about, and then potentially Jaylen Waddle. I know there was, talk, today about, Jaylen Waddle being back at practice on Tuesday, which is phenomenal. Maybe that's kind of in a way to kind of distract Ohio State. I mean, if you have to prepare for Jaylen Waddle, my goodness, it's going to be tough to deal with.
Right. No doubt about it. That's good news that we'll talk about later in depth as well. Trey, your thoughts on Alabama versus Ohio State? By the way, this is only the 5th time that these two powerhouses have ever played.
Yeah, and never for a national title. This game has, so many different narratives coming into it, so many different storylines. And nobody thought they were going to be here. This is an Ohio State team that's had to play with a chip on their shoulder through no fault of their own. Like Kyle was saying, you feel so bad for these kids because their presidents, certain people that are the heads of these schools pretty much wanted to cancel the season, and they figured out a way to make it happen. And Ohio State didn't play a full schedule. It's crazy to think we're going to be looking at a team with 7 wins in the national championship game. But, they won all 7 games and they came out and dominated Clemson. You wonder how much of the rest factor, them only playing 7 games, goes into that. That was, a conversation I heard this weekend. But, I think it just comes down to Ohio State being that good. This is a talented roster. Justin Fields is an unbelievably talented quarterback. We'll see how healthy he is if he plays. Brian Day said today that he fully intends on playing Justin Fields in this game. So, Justin Fields could be 50-50 still. That could give Alabama the advantage if he's able to play and, not fully healthy. That could really, make Alabama's defense not have to work as hard. Now, Alabama's offense, I think, is going to have to work pretty hard. You saw Trevor Lawrence, in some pretty stressed situations on Saturday, didn't handle it very well. And his team, got dominated. Probably could have been even worse in that one. But I think Mac Jones is going to be okay because we saw the same thing in Alabama's semifinal on Friday. Handled the pressure well, was able to check it down when he had to. And I think we'll see a lot of the same this coming Monday for Ohio State. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be about Justin Fields' health, in my opinion. And, if Patrick Surtain can lock down, Olave and these other receivers, and we'll see. But I think it's a great matchup. I think it's going to be a better matchup than Alabama-Clemson because, like we found out on Friday, this offense is exposable. And I think Alabama would have done the same.
How about you, Tony?
Yeah, I think when I look at this matchup, the thing I'm looking at is can Ohio State's defensive line kind of get through and pressure Mac Jones and force him into throws, kind of like what we saw with what they did to Trevor Lawrence. They were able to get to him and make life difficult for him at some times. Look, Alabama was able to move the ball against Notre Dame. There were times late in the second half where they couldn't get the run game going. I think they're missing Landon Dickerson. We wrote about Chris Owens, and I think he's done an admirable job filling in, but he struggled, especially against the pass rush in the Rose Bowl. He wasn't that great against the run in run blocking as well, and that could be a problem for Clemson. I mean, for Alabama if Ohio State's able to kind of get some pressure up the middle. That's where you really can affect the quarterback. If you're able to, kind of rush up the middle, that can affect throws, that can really affect the passing game. So that's, I think, Ohio State's best chance of winning. I think Alabama's still going to get its points, though. And I think Alabama's defense, it looks pretty good against Notre Dame's offense. I mean, look, there are times where you look at this defense and it gives up a big play. And I still think, with the guy like Justin Fields, that big play might still happen. But I think this Alabama defense is going to do a good enough job to give its offense a chance to win the game. And that's what I expect. So other than, a surprise where, maybe Mac Jones gets knocked around in the pocket and some big plays happen for Ohio State, I kind of see Alabama coming away with this one. But hey, credit to Ohio State. Look, you can't sleep on them because I'll admit that I was wrong. I thought the only teams out there, that were going to be playing in this game were Alabama and Clemson, and that was not the case. They dominated Clemson, and I think this Ohio State team is for real, and it is a team that can beat Alabama. I don't necessarily know if it will, but it's there. They've proven that they're an elite contender.
Yeah, Tony Elliott not there for Clemson. And it obviously showed up in that championship game. Clemson's offense didn't look like it was playing on their, kind of their normal caliber. And then at the same time, you got to give Ohio State a lot of credit. Their defensive line was in the backfield an awful lot on Trevor Lawrence, and they stopped the run. So if you can do those two things and you score points, you're going to win. Guys, Alabama and Ohio State haven't played since 2015. I was at that one, 2015. I mean, you think about it, like as good as these teams have been, it's the only time that Nick Saban's coached against these guys at Alabama. In 1995, Jay Barker, my buddy Jay Barker, last game ever in that Citrus Bowl, last pass was a touchdown, I think to Sherman Williams in a 24-17 win. Ohio State, I want to say they scored the first 17 points in that game, right? And then in 1978, Bear Bryant and the boys in the Sugar Bowl took care of Ohio State 35-6. I heard someone today say this is a series that Alabama has dominated. I don't agree with that. I mean, look, these games are so spread out. I mean, it's like one a decade, right? And skip one, So, but I'm sure that some of you guys were at the game in 2015. I'm going to give my thoughts on that one. I heard, people kind of bringing that up last night and then today. Alabama had Blake Sims as quarterback that year. and they won the SEC. And I thought Lane Kiffin, as much as I've gotten on him about, leaving and not coaching that team to the national championship against Clemson, the job that he did leading Alabama's offense, Blake Sims was like a record setter. And I thought that just as a quarterback that, he was very limited in his skill set, but he was a leader. He was a likable guy. He'd stuck around, and Ohio State, should have beaten Alabama, in my opinion, a lot worse than 42-35. I mean, just kind of looking at that, Alabama didn't run Derrick Henry enough in that game. And, it set Alabama up for obviously a national championship in the future. This game this year, totally different because, you're talking about a totally different offense for Alabama, and Ohio State doesn't have Urban Meyer anymore, Kyle.
Yeah, they don't. And I would be curious to see if the NFL program does kind of in the near future, but I guess that's a show for another time. You're right. You kind of look at how Alabama's offense has evolved, over the course since 2015 to now. It's light years, right? These guys are putting up points almost at will, and the job that these guys continue to do, it's kind of almost stems from what Brian Daboll did, and then you kind of look to where Loxley took it, and then Steve Sarkisian has just elevated it overall. It's nothing to compare to years past of Alabama. Now, you could say the same thing about the defense, right? The defense has kind of, it's a different defense. It's a different world of college football. I think it kind of getting back to today's game, that'll be the difference. It's going to be who has the bigger offense. Look, Ohio State clearly is a balanced team. I was listening to Ryan Day. It's a great press conference. And if you go back and watch it and you kind of listen to his breakdown, very great minds. He's talking about these two teams share a similar thing, and that's that they have a balanced attack, right? Both of the teams can run the football very well. They both have a very good quarterback, and they both have very good wide receivers. So I think you look to the offensive line, you look to which players can rise up on the defensive side of the ball, and you look to which coach can kind of outmaneuver the other. This is a great opportunity for Steve Sarkisian to win a national championship. I know that Texas is on the horizon, but look, you got a chance to win a national championship. I don't know how long he's going to be till he even competes for a Big 12 title at Texas, right? So you got to make the most of this opportunity. Nick Saban gunning for another national championship. This team is absolutely loaded. So when I kind of look at the breakdown, I go back to the offense, and I think it's going to be a night of fireworks.
Trey?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Kyle. This is a much different game than that 2015 semifinal. And offensively for both teams, it's different. Alabama's attack is a little bit more in the air, but it is balanced. And I think it's going to come down to, for the defense, it's going to come down to Trey Sermon. If they can stop Trey Sermon, if the defensive line can figure out a way to limit him. That's why Clemson lost, in my opinion, this past Friday, is because the run game got to them. And then Ohio State was able to mix and match the pass, and, the deep ball got them there. And then the defense stepped up. So, a balanced attack, like Kyle is saying, is what could beat Alabama, which is ironic because that's what Alabama is going to need to use to win this game as well. I don't know if we're going to see as, many complex schemes as we saw on Friday against Notre Dame, or exactly what the defense is going to, how they're going to approach this game. But I think they're going to really start with Trey Sermon, depending on how healthy Justin Fields looks in the early going. And offensively, I think Alabama is just going to do what they do. I think they're going to set up the pass with the run. They're going to be going up against a little bit, less potent of a defensive line. Still a very good one here in Ohio State. Not quite, the same caliber as Notre Dame, but if they can do that, if they can work the dump off well and get over the middle decently, I think the deep ball is going to come like it has all season. And I liked on Friday when we were 4 plays into the game and the ball still hadn't touched Devontae Smith's hands. They've been able all season to get it around the field to different guys. We've seen Billingsley really come a long way this season. He's going to have to be an X factor in this game, like he's kind of been there in the conference title and that semifinal on Friday. And, it's going to be about the big time skill players too. I think, big time players make the big time plays in the big time game. Devontae Smith knows how to win a national title. He was the guy that caught the 2nd and 26 pass. And I know that's behind him. He doesn't want to focus on that. But, he's been there, and a lot of these guys have and know how to play in these big moments. So I think Alabama has a bit of the edge there. But, it's going to come down to the running back play, in my opinion, and we'll see how that goes.
Tony, were you at the game in 2015? I remember being on Bourbon Street. I used to watch the show, and I still do on occasion, called Bar Rescue. And one of the bars that John Taffer rescued was on Bourbon Street. I went in there. It was like, not too far down Bourbon Street. They had like this big, it was like a ghost spirit type bar that had a lot of different bourbons. And then, of course, the mixed drinks and all that stuff. I figured that you'd have to have been in school then, right? Or maybe a little before you?
No, I was out of school, but I wasn't at that game. I saw it on TV. Talking about Trey Sermon. I mean,
Bringing you in, man. I was going to buy you a drink.
I know. I'm a little bit older, I guess, but I'll admit. But I guess I kind of aged myself. I should have just lied and said, yeah, I was a freshman. But no, I think when you look at, is that the last time that really you could say like a running back beat Alabama? Because I know Ezekiel Elliott ran over Alabama in that game, and not often when Alabama loses a game, it's not often the running back that does it. I think you can maybe make an argument that that's the last time that. I might be if I'm missing one in the comment section, hit me up. But I think it might be the last time that you look at an Alabama loss and a running back was the real reason why they lost.
Yeah, and I remember Reggie Ragland got knocked out of that game, and he was, I don't think he was a great linebacker, but he was a good linebacker at Alabama. He was a big guy, and that was kind of like, to me, Reggie Ragland was the last of the big defenders that maybe didn't go side to side as easy. But that day it was just Ohio State's physicality when Reggie got knocked out in a game that I thought he played really well in, Alabama just had no answer to stop Zeke Elliott. If you remember, I mean, it was one of the worst secondaries that Nick Saban had. The quarterback was the third string quarterback. I forget the guy's name. He just rolled out and threw the ball deep, and no one on Alabama could do anything about it. They just didn't have the Patrick Surtains, on the team that could knock it down, and Alabama lost. So that was the first time that Alabama had lost to Ohio State. This year's team features a star quarterback in Justin Fields. He led his team to a win over Clemson and was 22 of 28, 385 yards. The dude had 6 touchdowns and an interception. I mean, he was just absolutely a beast. And even after he took a hit that was, he might have broken his ribs. We don't know, but you don't see a guy get hit that hard. He stayed in the ball game, toughed it out, and was even better afterwards. Your thoughts on just what Alabama's going to have to do to try to stop this guy, Kyle?
I mean, Justin Fields, my goodness. I mean, that performance against Clemson was memorable. And I was actually talking to my son about this. He was like, look, so Justin Fields, that will be added into the Heisman Trophy presentation. I was like, no, or the Heisman Trophy votes. And it's kind of, it's sad in my opinion that a performance like that is not going to be recognized on a national stage, because I think with that performance right there, he jumps back into the Heisman race. Look, I'm saying Mac and Devontae are ahead, but I mean, that was a crazy performance. I mean, 6 touchdowns, 385 yards. We all saw that hit. I mean, it was Chris. I mean, the way that he was hit, I mean, my goodness, that was terrifying, right? I mean, I would have thought maybe some almost internal bleeding. He got smashed, comes back in, throws a touchdown on that drive, fights it off, throws 6 touchdowns, outduels Trevor Lawrence. Ohio State played mad. And I think coming into this game, he's the guy that you got to definitely be worried about. I mean, Trey Sermon, just like Trey said, he can run the football very effectively, but Justin Fields is a quarterback that, is clearly going to the NFL. He's a guy that clearly has touch. He has power. He's a dual threat. He can make you miss. And I think that overall, he's kind of the catalyst of this offense. And Ryan Day has a lot of confidence in him. We were going to listen to him today during the media availability. Somehow they said that he wasn't going to be available. So maybe we'll hear from him next time. I was kind of curious to see what he was going to say after that win over Clemson going into this national title game. I think overall, Justin Fields is, this guy's out. He's hungry. He wants to be able to beat Alabama on this type of stage. It's going to be tough, for both of these defenses to come up and stop these quarterbacks in a game like this. I'm curious to see how that game from that carryover from Clemson translates to the title game.
Hey, before we go, shout out to Poet Injustice for bringing up Kerryon Johnson. Yeah, so I asked the last time a running back beat Alabama. Kerryon Johnson had a big game in that 2017 Iron Bowl. I totally forgot about that one.
Yeah, we try to forget about that one. But you're right about that. So what do you think about this? Alabama trying to stop Justin Fields? Tony?
The dual threat quarterbacks, man, that's usually what's the ticket for Alabama. You talk about what normally beats Alabama. It's not the running back. It's the dual threat quarterbacks, and he certainly has the capability to make plays, extend plays with his feet. Look, you saw Ian Book, who I kind of feel is just an above average quarterback. I know he's had some big games, and he even had some Heisman chatter at one point, but I think he's just an above average quarterback. But you saw him make some plays at times with his feet in the Rose Bowl, and I think Justin Fields can definitely do that. You know, and if you allow him to do that, then some passing plays are going to open up. This Alabama defense hasn't been always the most disciplined bunch, and against a running quarterback like that, you really have to be disciplined. And so I think that's going to be a challenge for Alabama, that and stopping the running game. So look, this Ohio State offense is great, and it's going to keep Alabama's hands full. And I think that really starts with Justin Fields. I don't think a running back's going to beat Alabama this year. I think if Ohio State's going to win this game, it's going to be because of Justin Fields.
Trey, are his ribs going to heal? I mean, you guys are about the same age.
I don't know if they're going to heal, but I don't know if that matters. This kid's grit, the determination to just finish the ball game on Friday was unbelievable. It was going to take a freight train to stop him. And, I think the mindset's a little bit different for this national title game because, they didn't play Alabama last year. They didn't get their hearts broken by Alabama last year and have controversy with Alabama and everything else that ended their season like they did with Clemson. So, I think the mindset's a little bit different there for Justin Fields. You could tell no matter what happened, he was going to finish that game and he was going to beat Clemson. That's what he said. He told his coach after he went down on that play. He said, we're going to win this game. There's no doubt. So I think it's a little bit different. They weren't posting 29-23 in their weight room with an Alabama logo next to it. But this means just as much because you're now competing for a national title. So I don't know if he's going to be, even 50% healthy. He could be. We don't have that information, but I do know that he's going to play with a lot of grit and is going to come out and do whatever it takes to keep his team in this game. That's Ohio State this year. They have the chip on their shoulder. They were the guys that were counted out. They were the team that everybody was talking about. Should they even make it? They're here, and they scored 49 points in a playoff game, and now they're coming for Alabama in the national title. Will Justin Fields be enough? I'm not sure, but he's going to try like nobody's business. And is Alabama's defense going to be enough to stop that?
Happy New Year, everyone. The first Monday Night Quarterback of 2021. We appreciate you guys being here. Thumbs up, subscribe to the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Swing by BamaInsider.com if you want all the latest on the search for a new offensive coordinator, Kyle Henderson, with his ear to the ground and the other ear in the Alabama football complex, trying to figure out exactly who is going to be the guy to replace Steve Sarkisian. Will be one of the sites that'll have it, maybe first. So check it out. And right now is a great time to subscribe as well. And we appreciate all of you guys being here. So whether you're an Alabama fan, a Ohio State fan, or you're just hanging around to talk college football, thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. All right, guys, the final thing we're going to talk about tonight is the return of the Mac. No, I mean return of Jaylen Waddle. Return of the Mac's an old song that I liked. Used to have the cassette tape. Do you remember that song?
Return of the Mac.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, that one.
I am young enough not to remember that. So whatever that means. If we're finding out my age range here, Mick.
And thanks, Sherry, for the super chat. I'm sure you remember the Return of the Mac song. Look, return of Waddle. I've said it. I think I'm going to stand by it. I think that if he doesn't have any setbacks medically, he's going to play in this football game. He's back at practice. Kyle, can you believe this?
Yeah, so AL.com reported today that he'll be back at practice on Tuesday. I guess we'll have to see, if they're going to leak out any practice footage. I'm sure if there's any ace in the hole going into this week, it's going to be you want to keep Jaylen Waddle kind of hitting. So I don't know if we're going to see any type of highlights. You saw the videos that we posted right here on YouTube. Tony was down in Arlington, sent us some footage of him catching passes on the sideline. What does that mean? Well, it means he's catching passes, right? We haven't seen him running routes or anything like that. Can you imagine, though, if you guys from Ohio State, they're like, okay, these guys are distracted. Steve Sarkisian, these guys are in disarray. And then Nick Saban's like, well, Jaylen Waddle's coming back. You're like, you're like, can you imagine what they're thinking? They're like, geez, So Jaylen Waddle coming back. And I think if he comes back and he's ready to play in this game, I mean, I can't even anticipate how good the offense will be at this point because they're already rolling. And I think when you look at this Alabama offense, you got Najee Harris, you got Devontae Smith, John Mechie's done a wonderful job stepping up, but they've missed kind of like that exclamation point or another one, and that's Jaylen Waddle. So if he comes back, and I'm really hoping he does, just for his sake, just because he's a team guy, right? He has a great attitude. All these guys want to be together. That's kind of their mantra of being just the team. And if he comes back, I think that they win this football game hands down. I think he just provides kind of that exclamation point. So we'll have to see if he does come back. But I mean, if he's returning to practice, I don't think he's just returning to practice just for the sake of it. I think if he does return to practice, I think that means that he is playing on Monday against Ohio State.
Tony, is this a trick?
Could be. It could be all for show. I don't think it is. I don't think this is something that Alabama does. Like, this is it'd be one thing if he came out of nowhere, but we've been kind of circling this championship game as a possibility for Jaylen Waddle. So this is not just something that comes out of nowhere. You mentioned Ohio State, right? But they had to. If you've been following Alabama at all, the possibility of Waddle coming back has been around for like a month and a half now. Nick Saban mentioned it in November that Jaylen wanted to come back. And look, whenever somebody gets, a season-ending injury early at Alabama, the way that their medical staff works, you should almost put that in quotation season-ending, because these medical staff, it does wonders on people and gets them back into games or gets them back into shape. I've always kind of thought that Jaylen Waddle would come back. So the fact that he's practicing, he's running on dry ground, I think he's going to play. Now, my concern from an Alabama perspective is he going to be 100% Jaylen Waddle? And then if you try to force him back too soon, he can still make a mistake. He's human, especially if he's injured. So you got to make sure that if he does come back, that he's able to contribute. But I mean, look, we've seen Jaylen Waddle, if he's close to his 100%, you're right, it's going to make a difference. No offense to Slade Bolden, but he's not Jaylen Waddle. And if you put Jaylen Waddle in the slot, look, it's already hard to stop Devontae Smith. It's near impossible to stop Devontae Smith. Well, imagine doing that now with Jaylen Waddle in the mix. It's crazy. Now you've got Jaleel Billingsley in there. John Mechie III's, been a really solid receiver as well. So yeah, this could get crazy. I mean, if you have a fully healthy Jaylen Waddle, there's no way Alabama's not dropping 50. But we'll see how healthy he is.
Well, they've got a block up front. Trey, any thoughts on the return of Waddle?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is electric. There's no way around it. I think if he plays this season, he's probably wide receiver 1 on this team, and that's no disrespect to Devontae Smith at all. I know I sound crazy right now. This is a kid that's about to win the Heisman, but Jaylen Waddle's that good. He is, the first step, the second step, just the explosiveness you see, what he was able to do on special teams. It's unbelievable. So if Alabama can have him back just standing on the field, whether he makes a catch or not, that is a world of difference if you can decoy Jaylen Waddle. I was watching The Last Dance over again last night from a basketball fans, and, the Bulls were in a very similar position. They were playing in the NBA Finals against the Utah Jazz in '97, and Scottie Pippen had back spasms and couldn't be in the game. Came out for the second half and just stood on the floor, and just his presence alone was enough to, throw off the Utah Jazz defense. I think that's going to be the same thing in this game. If you're looking down the barrel and you see Devontae Smith, John Mechie, and now Jaylen Waddle back at receiver, who do you guard? Ohio State didn't really have much trouble with Clemson's receivers on Friday, but an adjustment like that could change everything. So, we'll see. You got to hope he's healthy enough to play. The last thing you want to do is have him play in this game and ruin any kind of future career or money that he would be able to make playing the game of football at the next level. That's got to be the first priority. But, the staff doesn't mess around. They're not going to put him out there unless they truly believe he's good to go and he can make an impact. And I know he believes it. So we'll see if they give him the green light here. And, I'd love to see it. I think he's probably ready.
Thanks for the super chat, Jersey Dolphin, as we talk about Alabama football. Guys, the thing to me, and I'm going to let you sound on this as well, for Jaylen Waddle not to opt out with everything else that's going on, the broken ankle against Tennessee, he doesn't have to play. He doesn't have anything to prove. There's no reason at all, selfishly, that he's got to go out on the football field. I mean, I know he wants to win a national championship, but at the same time, what it says to me is that this guy's dedicated to the Alabama football program. There's a magic about wearing those crimson and white uniforms. And, he doesn't want his last memory to be getting hurt against Tennessee. He wants it to be walking off the field with a championship and eventually a ring ceremony. And I think that really says a lot about what this program is that Nick Saban has built. And I love the fact that this is coming out now, because I was just not a big fan of Texas, Steve Sarkisian, and the timing of the announcement that he was going to be their head coach. I felt like it was like Nick Saban kind of alluded to a little bit today in the press conference. It's one of the points I made last night, is that it takes away from the players that got him the job. He didn't get the job because people were like, hey, Steve Sarkisian. He got the job because of these guys right here and what they were able to accomplish on the football field. Going back to Jaylen Waddle, I just tip my cap, if I was wearing one, that he's out there back doing this thing again. And I think that it helps Alabama as far as, refocusing on playing a football game and not what coaches are going where. Kyle?
Yeah, it's Jaylen Waddle. Look, this is, in my opinion, the most electrifying football player in college football. And that says a lot, considering Devontae Smith's the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. I think that's just how good this team is. That's just how good Jaylen Waddle is. It's really sad to even think about that Najee Harris isn't sitting at that virtual table. He has 27 touchdowns this year, 24 rushing touchdowns. Please do not forget about Najee Harris. His campaign will not be forgotten by me. That was a campaign. 24 touchdowns, 3 additional wide receiving touchdowns to put him at 27. It was just incredible performance against Florida. I'll always go back and watch the highlights of that game. Back to Jaylen Waddle. Look, if the guy is good to go, Ohio State's going to have some trouble. I was kind of looking at the Pro Football Focus grades. You guys will have something special coming up at Bama Insider. I'm going to line up all the Pro Football grades kind of side by side, so you can look at kind of the comparisons from the wide receivers to the corners. And I think if there's one area that Ohio State will have trouble with, it's at the corner position. They just don't grade out well, and I think Alabama could take advantage of that. So Jaylen Waddle comes back. I think it's going to really buoy this entire team to be amplified, be ready to go for the game in Miami, for a game that we really can't wait to see. This is one of the most highly anticipated national title games that we've had, Alabama, Ohio State. What more could you want?
Tony?
It's certainly a momentum boost, right? It definitely, like you said, look, it gets, whether he does anything in the game or not, it's got to give Alabama more confidence heading into the game, right? You see him back at practice, you start remembering what it was like with Jaylen Waddle. It's huge. It's huge for this matchup, and if he can do anything, if he can be a decoy, if he can, or if he can just be his old self, it's going to have huge implications. Alabama's proven that they can win without him, so I don't think it's going to be I don't see this in any way ever being a negative. Look, if Jaylen Waddle practices this week and then, Friday they decide like, hey, look, he can't go. I don't think that's going to be such a letdown, because I think Alabama knows they can win without him, but having him there is going to be a huge boost. How could it not be?
Yeah, I agree with you. And we're talking about Jaylen Waddle and not Steve Sarkisian's next job at Texas, Trey.
Yeah, this is for Steve Sarkisian just another pawn that he can use in this game to win the Texas fans over, if there's any more of doing that for Steve Sarkisian. But it'll be interesting. I'm glad that Steve Sarkisian is in this position, because he's going to know exactly how to use Jaylen Waddle in this game. Most offensive coordinators would, but this is a unique situation. And with a receiving core that's already so loaded, like Tony said, if we find out on Friday, Jaylen Waddle can't go for whatever reason, that's probably not the worst thing in the world for Bama, because right now Ohio State is game planning with the thought in the back of their head, we might have to face this kid come Monday. So, for Steve Sarkisian, I think it's just about finding ways to incorporate him one way or another, whether that's with the football or without it. And just putting him in a position to succeed and stay healthy. This offense can hurt you in a lot of ways. It seems like every time we watch them, they find a new way to just pick apart the defense. It's going to be interesting to see what it is against this Ohio State defense. But, if Jaylen Waddle plays, there's no denying it. He will have a part of that and make an impact in this game.
I kind of wanted to see Alabama against Clemson, just because, that's been the team that has beaten Alabama a lot, and Alabama's beaten them. They've been great games. But I was thinking, like, if they beat Clemson, then the Daniel Moore print would be another picture of Clemson, like in there. And I'm excited about, and you guys know at New Life Art, maybe it's an Alabama Ohio State print, right? The last one that he did with those two was the game, Jay Barker's last pass. So, I'm a big fan of his artwork, and I'm hoping that maybe he does a picture. I'm guessing if he does, somehow he's going to have to do that jump that Najee had over the Notre Dame defender. Sometimes they'll do like the little pictures on the side. But we got that coming up on Monday. There it is right there. Look at that.
How about that catch for let's I know Najee's on the mind, but how about that catch for Devontae against LSU? That's another big one right there.
Well, that was another great one. There were a couple of memorable plays in that game. All right, guys, final thoughts before we bid everyone farewell. And for those of you that are watching right now, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you guys being here more than you know. And we invite you to come back tomorrow night for the Heisman ceremony. We're going to have our own watch party, and we'll be here when whoever wins. But that would be a great Daniel Moore print, by the way, right there. Even a standalone, Kyle.
Yeah, I love it. I even try to throw a little a little artsy frame on it. So just kind of giving Daniel Moore an idea. I love it. When he first jumped over this kid, I was like, my goodness, because it looked like he just kept rising and rising, right? And everyone was shocked. If you look in this photo, there's a couple people in the background they're shocked because they're witnessing greatness. Final thought from me. I think overall, I'm just really excited and elated to be here in 2021 talking about football, because I think when we look back to 2020, which lasted 15 years, it didn't seem like we were going to have a college football season, and then we inched closer towards it, and then we got through it, and now we're just a couple of days away. Next Monday, we'll be talking about the college football championship between Alabama and Ohio State. So I'm having fun with it. Tons of coverage to come your way on Bama Insider. We got the Heisman presentation on Tuesday, the awards show, which will be Thursday night. Alabama, as you can see, bringing in a ton of awards. So there's so much to cover and so much to track. And of course, a great place to keep track of it all is at BamaInsider.com. Promo code for the free 30 days is simply Roll Tide. Tons of coverage. Kicking it back to, I guess, Trey or Tony.
Trey.
Let's do it. Yeah, no, like Kyle said, huge week. There's no getting around that. Such a big day tomorrow for Devontae Smith and Mac Jones. So they try to win the Heisman. And, obviously the national title is this Monday. So strap in, guys. This is going to be an unbelievable game. We're going to have the coverage all week. We're going to break it down and just get you guys ready. This is a national championship on the line. Alabama's going for number 18. And this team deserves it more than really any other team in the country. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's been great getting to do this throughout the season. Thank you guys for coming on here and talking and sharing with us and, just being a part of this thing. It's been a blast, and we'll keep it going into the off season. But, thank you everybody for a great year. What do you got, Tony?
Yeah, I think, as you look at this, all the individual success from the players at Alabama this season, if they're able to pull off a national championship, let's not forget about the job that Nick Saban did orchestrating this all together. And also, let's not also forget that would be, that would tie him in national titles with Bear Bryant for the most by any coach. And that is huge. So it really has the potential. We're one game away from this being an extremely special year for Alabama. And it's the fact that they made it through COVID and that we were able to have a season. I know it's been weird. I know there hasn't been fans, but it almost makes it a little bit more special because we didn't even know we were going to have a season. And now we're sitting here, I'm going to get to go to a national championship game this weekend. And I feel blessed to be in this position. I feel blessed that we just got to see this college football season out because, like Kyle said, look, back in early September or maybe, before that, August, you're thinking maybe there won't be a season or maybe we wouldn't even get through one if there was. And we did. We made it. And kudos to everybody involved for getting through this season. It's been kind of a grind from both the coverage aspect, I'm sure putting things together. I'm sure it's been a grind for Nick Saban, but it's what a season it's been.
Well, I think that was well said, and we appreciate those Alabama guys for going out there and the rest of the SEC and college football for playing because it's given us some entertainment and it's kept us employed. And we got one more game, which has really been amazing. Alabama will have played in every possible game that they could have played in. And it would be such a letdown if they didn't win this national championship after going through the SEC and playing just about everyone and beating everyone. I don't know that we'll ever see that again. So for Tony, Trey, and Kyle, I'm Mick. Thanks for watching, guys. This was Monday Night Quarterback. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have coverage on our site. You can find it at BamaInsider.com or right here at the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And we'll have that Heisman watch party tomorrow night as well as we expect an Alabama player to win. Thanks for watching, everybody, and Roll Tide.